What form do I use? What what form do I use for broker compensation? How do I get paid other than the buyer paying me for my buyer broker fee? All right, well, this goes hand in hand with our original chart right here. Make myself a little bit bigger here. So take a look. Let's follow the bouncing ball. Let me move myself over here. A little small again. All right. So your buyer has signed a buyer broker agreement. All right. You've met a buyer. They've signed a buyer broker agreement. You're good to go. You've agreed to a purchase price. So what you do is you call up the buyer, the listing agent, and you say this. You say, what is the nature and the amount of the compensation, if any, being offered to buyers brokers? And then you don't say anything. All right. Now they're either going to email you, they're going to text you, they're going to send you something, they're going to tell you. All right, or they'll say we're offering 2.5%. All right, so now if that seller has allowed that listing agent to share their broker compensation, all right, you're going to be right here. All right, seller's broker is being allowed to share their compensation. What form do you use? Okay, you can use for FAR. You're going to pull this one out, and how do we know we got the right one? Because it says seller's broker to buyer's broker compensation agreement. And remember that this number right here, this number that they're offering, has to be less than or equal to whatever is on your buyer broker agreement. All right, if this right here says 2.5%, all right, and yours says 3, guess what? That buyer owes you 0.5%. If this right here says 3.0 and yours says 3.0, that buyer owes you 0 at closing. If this right here says 1% and that buyer broker that you've got signed says 3%, the buyer owes you 2% at closing. You follow? So, in closing, if that listing agent says that they're sharing their compensation at 2.5%, you're going to use seller's broker to buyer's broker compensation. You can also use, over here, NABOR broker compensation agreement, you can use this one. It means exactly the same thing. All right. These two forms, all right, you can use these you can use the NABOR forms along with the FAR forms. It doesn't matter. Why? Because look at who the agreements are with. They're with the listing broker and the buyer's broker. If you have a FAR buyer broker agreement signed, you have an agreement between a buyer and Domain Realty. You can use the NABOR broker compensation agreement. And why is that? Because the agreement is between a listing broker and the buyer's broker. It's between John R. Wood or Coldwell Banker or whatever listing office that you're doing the deal with and Domain Realty. That's why you can use them interchangeably, because the parties are different. So, if you get down here, and if that seller is allowing you to share your compensation, you're going to use the seller to buyer's broker compensation agreement.